Okay, so this is a regular meeting of the Darien Advisory Committee on Sustainability. The date is January 12th, and we have a quorum, and I am calling the meeting to order at 12:40. This meeting is being held virtually only on the town's GoToMeeting platform, as indicated on the agenda posted with the town clerk and on the town's website. The first item on the agenda is I would just like to say a few words. As the new chairman of this committee, thank you for voting for me. I'd like to take a minute to thank Craig for his hard work on this committee, first as a member, way back when we started in 2012, and as chairman for the past several years. So we've accomplished a lot under his leadership. We've done things like expand recycling opportunities at the recycling center to include mattresses, paint, smoke detectors, food scraps, and these are a lot of things that other communities aren't able to recycle. Many other communities can't, so we as a community should feel very lucky to have this. We transitioned our temporary swap shop, which was so popular, into a permanent one after getting a grant from the state. And that is definitely like one of the hottest tickets in town, the swap shop. And he advocated for increasing the town's Class 1 renewable energy generating capacity with the addition of solar panels on an additional 3 town-owned properties. We applied for and were awarded bronze certification from Sustainable CT in 2019, and I'm sure I'm forgetting a lot of other things that you've done, Craig. I know you also did a lot of things behind the scenes, but the point is that we've been a committee that gets things done, and you've always been inspiring and supportive. And I've really enjoyed working with you, and I only hope that I can bring a level of professionalism to this committee that you have. And I know that you've said that you'll be around and willing to pitch in, but know that you will be missed. And so from the bottom of my heart, I want to give you a big thank you.
Thank you very much, Carolyn. It's a virtual hug. I obviously could not have done any of it without the diligence of a number of different members over the years, including those present and you too, Carolyn. But it is nice to kind of hear the summary of 8 or 9 years of work, right? Sometimes month to month, it doesn't feel like we're getting a lot done, but when you do look back, we have done a lot, and that does feel good. So thank you for the brief recap.
And I just love how you've always been like willing to entertain like crazy ideas, like when no one else was doing it, like, oh, we should be able to bring food scraps to a recycling center. And I thought, I didn't know how that was going to be received. And you were like, yeah, like, do some research, get some information, and let's see what we can do. And that was all I needed to hear. And it was just really, you've been really wonderful to work with, and I just really wanted to convey that. I don't want to put words in other people's mouths, but I'm sure they feel the same way.
Thank you.
I certainly do.
Thank you.
Great.
For sure.
So then the next thing on our agenda is to approve minutes, and we have minutes first set of minutes is from our regular meeting on December 8th, 2021. These were sent out with the agenda, and then for the special meeting, Christine sent those minutes out separately. So we'll do the regular meeting first. Are there any comments or discussion on the minutes that Cliff did from December 8th? Hearing none, can I have a motion to approve the minutes?
I'll move to approve the minutes. Actually, I'm not. I guess I'm a member until maybe I'm not. I don't know. Maybe I'm not a member.
You're a member for today. So do I have a second? Christine? Yes. And so all in favor of approving the minutes from December 8th?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, great.
It was nice to be
So-
able to make a motion, right? I tended not to do that as chair.
Do I have a motion to approve, excuse me, so now we'll talk about the minutes from the special meeting on January 5th.
Sorry,
Um,
I have to, I just wasn't sure if Kathy abstained.
I don't think I was at that meeting.
Okay,
December
I-
8th.
That's correct.
so it's
Oh,
just.
I'm sorry, yes, I should have asked if anyone abstained. Okay, great.
And the only reason that's relevant is in the minutes for today, when it says that the prior meetings were approved, we would need to say that it was approved with an abstention.
Yes. Okay. Thank you, Cliff. That's gonna take me a while to get all this down.
I know, me too.
So now the minutes from the special meeting on January 5th. Are there any comments?
I had no comments. I reviewed them. They look straightforward.
There was a revised set that was sent, and I didn't.
Did you get it, Cliff?
I got it looked like the original to me. I didn't see the revision. The main thing that I thought was somewhat important, although I'm not sure the minutes are that important to begin with, but on item 7, where we were not 100% sure we could do it, we had 2 possibilities, as I recall, and a follow-up plan with respect to those 2. And I think that's quite material, and it's absent from the minutes.
I did
you-
put that in. I put excluding number 7. There are 2 possible paths to pursue here. Would you like me to add
The
we are
possible
following
path.
up as a committee?
I would, I mean, so I guess different people have different ideas about minutes. My idea is generally that it provides kind of a reminder of follow-up items more than anything else. And so to specify what those 2 things are and who's supposed to do what kind of lays it out there and assigns responsibility and so on, and it just makes it easier for follow-up. That's my theory about it. But after that, I'll just silence myself because.
As I recall, item 1 was 7.3, and I was the responsibility to follow up with Ed on
Yes.
the possibility of doing that. And then I believe the other item was, I'm looking at the website, and it was,
Where's my thing?
was it, I guess it was the energy campaign?
Yes.
Yeah, so it was
that's-
7.7.
Yes.
Maybe Kathy, well, yeah, Kathy, because it was under the idea of like education and these little continuing ed pieces, was going to follow up on that.
Right, and those are really like our only 2 paths to getting points in that action item.
That's correct.
If you want me to change it, I will. I just kept it as because I didn't put everything that everybody was going to do as a follow-up, because it was more of a synopsis to go to the town. But I can change it if you want.
Any other comments? So as amended, do I have a motion to approve the special meeting minutes from January 5th? Kathy,
I will.
Kath, okay, and do I have a second? Craig? All those in favor? Okay, so that's unanimous. Great, so then moving on to the agenda. So the next thing that I put on here, and it's sort of, I said discuss 2022 areas of focus. And I mean, it's sort of self-explanatory. We all know what we're focusing on in 2022, which is our sustainable CT application. But I just wondered, I just put it on there, well, primarily because Craig had put it on there for the January meeting of 2021. So I thought it might be just kind of a good idea to include. Whether there's anything else outside the scope of the sustainable CT application that anyone thinks that we should be focusing on.
Well, I guess maybe my thought, and we already are, right?
There are other things down on the.
Yeah,
yes.
it's under the sustainable CT umbrella. But what I would suggest not losing sight of is, we might in this first 6 months say that's something that's not going to get us points this year, so we're not going to look at it.
Right.
Because it might take more than 1 year to do. And my example would be another solar array on the town hall if it's at all possible. And other examples like that. So I just don't want to, cut off our nose to spite our face, right? I don't want to focus only on the near term.
Okay. Okay, so that's good. Anyone else?
I'd love to have us as one of our foci have a real effort, a coordinated effort to double the food scrap program.
Mm-hmm.
We've talked about it lots of times. There are lots of good ideas, but we need to somehow implement it.
Yes. Yeah. So along those lines, Cliff, I'm moving down to the fourth item because it ties in with what you just mentioned, but I was invited to talk about the food scrap, to talk about our committee in general, but to focus on the food scrap program with the Beautification Commission just this morning. I met with them and I kind of gave them an overview, and they seem very motivated. They seem very interested, and they're thinking that there might be something in the spring, like around Earth Day, that they can do to help us promote. They're very eager and willing to try to help us in any way that they can, is sort of the point that I got. So in particular with regard to the food scrap program, they would like to help with that. So we do definitely need to grow the program, and there are other things that later on the agenda where we're hoping to do that as well. Anything else? Okay, so also under communications with other organizations, I mentioned that I met with the Beautification Commission this morning. We normally kind of talk about like conversations that have occurred at the Green Team meetings. The Green Team was postponed this month because of COVID. It's being postponed to early February, so there's nothing to report there. And then at the end of the month, the last Friday of every month, there is this sort of ad hoc food group that meets on Zoom. That will be coming up. There's nothing to report on that yet because that will be in a few weeks. Does anyone else have anything to report with regard to, collaborating or working with other groups? I think, Cliff, I had mentioned with regard to the watershed education, I received an email from someone in New Canaan who would like us to co-sponsor a watershed Zoom webinar. I don't know if you saw that email, Craig, but my question to you was, if we do decide to, because that can get us an extra 5 points under that action item, how do we co-sponsor it? Do we co-sponsor it as the Darien Advisory Committee on Sustainability, as the town of Darien? Like, how do we co-sponsor?
Yeah, I think it could be, well, in my estimation, and I recall this from the Aquarian presentation at the Nature Center 3 years ago that got us the points for water conservation education. I don't think it matters if it's the Darien Advisory Committee on Sustainability or the town of Darien. I think it could be either, because we're clearly a function and add on to the administration of the town.
Okay. So does everyone agree that this seems like an easy 5 points. I don't know why we wouldn't do this, especially since they're setting it up through the New Canaan Library. Our name will be on it, as well as like Wilton Go Green and a couple of other communities. So we'll promote that here, and whoever wants to can attend, and then we can get a few more points for that. Then I put upcoming meetings and webinar of interest because Kathy had mentioned a couple of things. At the last meeting, she had mentioned that there's a sustainable CT webinar on the 20th, and then she sent an email around leveraging ARPA for housing solutions. That's on the 18th. And then I'm always getting emails about various webinars, and sometimes I attend them and sometimes I don't, because there's just so many. And I was thinking that through, oftentimes there are things that I think other people might be interested in, but then, things tend to get lost in emails. And so I was thinking, is there a better way for us to notify each other? Like, should we maybe create a Google Calendar where when something like this comes across our desk, we can enter it into the Google Calendar and then share it, and then that just brings it to the attention of the rest of us. And then whoever wants to sign up for it can sign up for it, but at least you're aware of it.
I think
Go ahead, Kathy.
depends on what the webinar is, because I think there are certain things like you said, I mentioned a couple at our last meeting. For those of us on this committee, the January 20th Sustainable CT webinar is important and useful as it lays out this year's program. So that really is, I think, internal to our group. Then there are other.
I was thinking that they would all only be for this group. I was thinking the Google Calendar would only be for people on this committee.
Where I was going to go next was the second example you used. You mentioned is an event that I saw that is being specifically targeted to municipal officials in Fairfield County, and it also relates to sustainable CT. It's basically defined as a conversation for municipal officials and sustainable CT chairs in Fairfield County. So with something like that, I mean, it would seem like certainly internal to us, but then to find a way to reach out to others in the town to invite them. So that, that's the second layer. And then the third layer is a few of them may be great to put on our social media.
Yeah.
There's a great event on watershed education or whatever it might be that would be of interest to the public. So I don't know that there's one answer to how we communicate, but to the point, what's the best way for our group? For me, I think it's still in a message form somehow. Check out this day.
I don't really use Google Calendars,
Yeah.
and my email inbox is my to-do list.
Okay. So
everything gets sorted and scheduled out of my email inbox.
Yeah. So
maybe what I could do is just maybe send out like a weekly email and just include links for the various ones so that it's not a constant stream of emails. I mean, or do you not care?
I haven't. I mean, yes, there's a lot of them, and they are cluttered a little bit. And sometimes when there's a lot, you don't pay as close attention. But I like the fact that it's one webinar, one subject, because I might look at it and say, I'm busy that day, delete. Or I might look at it, and keep the one that I want to keep. That maybe I'll go to that one.
Okay.
It also allows for forwarding. Like then you get something like I got the FCCHO one and I could forward that. And I would like to talk about that for a minute, whether it's now as an upcoming webinar or in sustainable CT. I just want to spend a moment on that whenever it makes sense, Carolyn.
Which one, Kathy? The
housing, the ARPA for housing solutions for municipal officials in Fairfield County and sustainable CT chairs.
Okay, why don't we talk about that when we get to the sustainable CT actions?
Okay.
So then moving on to the next item, which is recycling food scraps. So I got the statistics for December, and we're still just like around, just under 4 tons a month. So our program is very stable, but it's to Cliff's point, it needs to grow. And I just wanted to ask Ed, because Ed and I did a Zoom meeting with some Connecticut DEEP officials and other municipal officials. It was on December 22nd, as I recall, Ed, and it relates to the expression of interest that we submitted for a grant to try to bolster our existing food scrap program, and also to be able to possibly try to have a pilot program with one or more haulers. And my understanding from that meeting was that we were going to get a list of questions from them, and that the actual application was going to be circulated around the first of the year. Well, it's already January 12th, and I checked and double checked my spam folder. I have not received anything, and I was just wondering if you've heard anything.
Carolyn, I have not, and you're right. We were supposed to get something the first week of January from them. So I don't, and I will go back and check to make sure that I didn't have anything in my out folders, but I usually clear it out once a week. So there's really no reason that we shouldn't have gotten it other than the same old reason, which is COVID. But you know,
Right.
I've been hearing that way too much lately.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, you're absolutely correct. We were supposed to get some list of questions and along with the application.
Right.
By now.
Okay. So do you think it would behoove me to reach out to them and just see what if the timelines changed?
I don't think it would hurt by asking. I think they should expect that by now, and they seem like they were pretty accommodating, especially
Right.
with the large different groups and towns that were on that phone call.
Right.
So I think they should expect this by now, and I don't see why a little email asking how's our status, what are we waiting on, type of thing.
Okay. So I'll do that then. And then the other thing that I wanted to bring up under single stream recycling guidelines, and I had already put this on the agenda, but then I went up to Ed's office to purchase some compostable bags, and I ran into Cindy, and she normally, so every year, usually in February or March, Ed or Cindy approaches us and says that, they would like an update on the materials that go out with the permits. And so just as a reminder of what that is, there's the trifold, and then there is the single stream recycling guidelines, which also on the back of it has much of the information that's contained in the trifold. And then there's also this, it's a third of a page. It's just reminding people that if they need a replacement sticker, and Cindy would like to keep this separate as is, because it's just important that this really jump out at people. Like she, really wants people to know that if they need a replacement sticker, like if you get a new car, you have to bring in your existing sticker, even if you peel it off and it rips and you bring the pieces in. Otherwise, you have to pay for a whole new permit. And probably because there's been problems in the past, it's important that this really jump out at people. So these are the three things that when you get your permit, they're in the envelope with it. So my question is, and this is the reason that this is a little bit more timely than it usually is because they've run out of these trifold brochures, and she wanted to know if she should go ahead and get a whole bunch of them printed up. And this is something that I've thought about for a while, but I feel like we should, and Ed, this would like your input on this as well, but it just seems from comments that I've received from people that the information that they get should be consolidated a little bit more, because people, they have this piece of paper and on the back, and I've been told that it's just too much, and that people end up not really paying that much attention to it because it just looks too confusing. So they just get rid of it. And so I'm wondering if we can consolidate. Cindy said she would like to continue to have something in the envelope because the stickers are very slippery and they need to be stapled to something. So I just would like to know what everyone's thoughts are on this, and also like if anyone would be willing to kind of spearhead the effort to consolidate the materials if that's the route that we take. It would save us money too, right, Ed? Because we pay a lot of money to have these 2 pieces of paper in the envelope.
Yeah, no, we do. And listen, as I said to Cindy, after you met with her, I was like, if the consolidation comes up, that's good for us. We want to leave it the way it is, that's fine too. But if your feedback that you're getting is that we're giving them too much paper, then obviously then we should be downsizing this. I'll work it any way we have to. Like I said, I always put money aside for those printing for those items because I think they're important. She did mention something about a QR code that you were thinking about. I love that idea. Didn't want to step on your toes right there, but I think that's a great idea.
Yeah, so that Recycle CT created a QR code that you can link directly to their mixed recycling guidelines. And so Greenwich took that information and they hired someone, and I have no idea how much it costs. I talked to Cindy, I said that, I could try to get information on this, but they worked with a firm that then took that information and linked it with everything that's in here. And so they don't send paper out anymore. Everyone just uses their QR code, and it links to all of the above. It links to single stream recycling guidelines. It links to everything you can recycle at the recycling center. It links to their hours and a map and everything. I mean, I encourage you all to look at the Greenwich's website because I think you can see it there, but it just seems so efficient and they've gotten very positive feedback on it. So like I said, I have no idea how much it costs them to make that conversion. I know that the firm had to work with Recycle CT to get that information that's contained in it. But, she also said that whereas we usually do this in March, she would, needs it a little bit sooner rather than later because they've run out of brochures to hand out to people.
I've been looking as you've been talking at the trifold and the recycling guide, each of which are available on the town website if you just type in Darien Recycling Center into your web browser. And if we had to start with one piece of paper, I think the piece of paper that has more relevant and targeted information on it is the trifold. You went the other way. Oh, that's very interesting. Because it's got, I like the way it did, here are all the different things you can recycle. Here's how you do appliances. Here's how you do batteries. Here's how you do. But that just says, here's a bunch of stuff. It doesn't go into more detail. I don't know. That's true. But so my first inclination was, I think the trifold has all of the information you need to get started. And you could use the recycling guide as, more detailed about single stream recycling if you needed it. And so you could print those out, have them on the counter, or just have them available on the website. And it's also in the town meeting calendar on the back of it now, which is great. So I guess I would kind of go with the trifold first. It's not as visually available, right? Yeah, it's not as colorful. But I would definitely be in favor of continuing to provide the piece of paper with the information on it. I just think it has to be in your hand for you to pay attention to it these days. It's too easy to not go to a website and not look at things.
And as she said, she needs something to staple the sticker to.
Yeah, my vote would be, let's read through the trifold, make sure we believe it's still accurate, and have that be the piece of paper that goes out with the stickers, and then just have the other one available at the counter or on the website. and or both on the counter and on the website.
And I agree with Craig on that, thinking that, yes, there are some of us that have seen that brochure over and over again, but there are many new people in the community. And I think I have two next door new neighbors and they don't know these things. And I'm the nosy neighbor that explains. So I think, when they go to get that first dump sticker, they need to have, they need that document with
I mean,
them.
the other interesting thought would be, I've always liked the underdog site map because it's a real quick study of, oh, here's all the things that you can recycle and where to recycle them. And then if you want more information, you could put the big QR code on the corner of it or something. That would be, if like going forward, maybe we could figure out how to use that as the graphic with the QR code in the corner to get more information.
Let's so, I mean, down the road.
Well, I have to disagree. I'm sorry. I love the QR code idea. I think everybody's doing it. Any restaurant you go into nowadays has a QR. They don't hand you a menu. And sorry, Ed, I hate those stickers on my car. Such a pain in the ass every year to take those things off. It would be awesome if we had hang tags with a QR code. You could just scan it and figure out where you're going. I don't know. That's just me. And I think the town website needs to be updated because it takes forever to click to find where you need to go anyway, if you do want information. So if we wanted to update where you just write when you go on the town website instead of trying to figure out what department you're going, because people can't figure this out. We should have one of these little blocks down here should be recycling center, just to make it easier. We need it in their face.
On the front of the town website, you mean?
On the front of the town website. Like it takes forever to find anything on that website. And if you don't know what department you're going to, if you just want to know where to put stuff, it would be nice to have that.
More tiles, more like a phone app now would get, exactly. If you get a mobile app. It's I'm on the committee and I can't find our own stuff. So I don't hold much.
There's never been
space.
Link. Yeah, it drives me nuts, but I think that would be the way to go. If especially you're trying to attract these people who are coming to town, are new, young, hip, they're not 90.
So there's what can we get done in the next 2 months to make sure this year's stickers go off without a hitch, and then what do we think a good long-term goal is perhaps for next year?
I think it's both. I think you do what you need to do right now. If you want to cut the paper, I think it's ironic we be sending more paper when we're in energy and recycling.
I've heard those comments too.
So I would reduce the
colored ink on it. Where it's like, hello, we're not listening to our own.
So do we think that for the purposes of this year, and Cindy's purposes, to her need to get something soon, that we revamp the trifold, not do this, and then for next year look into trying to do the QR code, because that's going to take some time
and development, and there may even be to do something like that, getting back to sustainable CT, I think communicating and updating stuff, a lot of the some of the community match monies, there might be a way to work on that.
Oh, great. That's a great idea. Right.
So I have a suggestion as a halfway house. I mean, I know that trifold is jam-packed with information already. There's no real estate available. But if somehow we could squeeze on there a reference to the app that lets you know about single stream, I think it's a great app.
Recycling Wizard, yes.
Yeah, if you could just squeeze that on there, for information about single stream, here's an app.
Maybe we can get rid of the little green triangle, the reduce reuse triangle. There's some real estate there, and we can say, go here for more information.
Yes, and then that way, if people want to see, we should continue to do this, but it should just be on the town website, and then they, as Craig said, maybe print out 50 copies and have them on the counter or something for people who. That way, the people who really want them, I've had so many people tell me that they get this stuff and it goes in the recycling. It's like they take their sticker out and everything else goes away. So, is that sort of the consensus, that we should keep the trifold, but make sure that it has everything needed, including the Recycle CT Wizard information that people can put on their phone, and And
But when
also,
you put this on there, Carolyn, like here's the QR code. I literally just generated one and linked it right to the the Town of Darien Recycling Center page that has everything listed on it.
we're going to talk offline, Christine, and you're going to help me figure out how to do that. Okay. So for Cindy's purposes, and Ed, do you agree that just the trifold and this one thin piece of paper that needs to be in there, those would be the two things that go out with the new permits?
Yeah, that's fine. That I know you mentioned it, but that little piece of paper saves us a whole lot of headaches with the permits that get lost.
She
It really
said.
does.
Yeah, she said. So, Craig, I think you
What?
are actually the one who has this on your computer because I don't have Publisher.
Yep.
Would you be willing to take a
Sure.
stab at updating this?
Well, you're the editor. Someone's got to tell me what I got to update. But so yeah, for at the least, I hear I'm going to make a reference to what's in, what's out, the app. And I think
Oh,
we
right,
could,
you
the other
should have.
place where there's real estate is the single stream logo.
Right.
And that would be, because it says for a complete list of blah, blah, blah. We could just change that statement, and then we could put a QR code right there that links to the website.
So we'll update it, but since you have it on your computer, would you make the changes that we suggest?
Yeah.
Okay, and then we'll get that to Cindy. So, Cliff, and does everyone kind of want to take a look at the trifold and send comments to me, and then I'll consolidate everyone's comments and send them to Craig? Cliff, we can't hear you.
Sorry.
That's okay.
I'm up in Maine, but I can get that off the town website to look at it, right?
Yeah,
Yes.
just type in Darien Recycling Center.
Okay. Yeah,
So,
I'll give you my comments.
One easy way, because both Christine and Kathy mentioned the difficulty of finding things on the town website. I just wanted to mention to anyone who's listening that at the bottom of the town website is the Sustainable CT logo. And if you click on that, it brings you to our page, which has all of these documents on it. But for anyone who doesn't think to do that, and I'm not sure why people necessarily would think to do that if we don't tell them to, you can also go to under Departments and Services, Public Works, and under Public Works is Recycling Center. And again, there's these documents and more under there. So it isn't always the most intuitive way, and we've talked about that before, but that's what we have right now. So, so there's that. So, okay, so I want to be mindful of the time. Dan's not here. The next thing was swap shop. Ed, is there anything that you wanted to mention about the swap shop, or anyone else?
No, I'm still getting on occasion, like every, I'm sorry, every 4 to 6 weeks, I'll get those complaints about the volunteers. I've been talking to Dan about it, and we'll continue to work on it. But it seems like there's 1 or 2 individuals that just are there all the time they're not on their best behavior. It's just something to deal with. But other than that, with all this cold weather, they haven't been opened as often as they usually are.
Yeah.
And with the snow also. So I'll continue to work with Dan. I think I got a couple ideas. I wanted to bounce them off him today with you folks, but I'll wait till he's here. I don't want to drop it on him without him,
Okay.
without everybody running.
Okay. Thank you.
And just a comment from my own experience, some of the people, I don't know if we have enough of those vests for the people that are there, if there should be enough, because sometimes there are people that are helping, walking up your car or directing traffic, and they're not always all in those ID vests. And I'm wondering, do we need more of those, or is it just enforcing wearing them?
Well, it really depends on when you catch them. If it's cold out, they're going to have a jacket on over it, or they won't have it on at all. I found that a couple of weeks ago when I just showed up to check out the workings, if you will, of the swap shop. But for the most part, when I check the cameras, I can see the vests. But
Okay.
I'll remind Dan that,
Yeah.
it's very important that we know, who's supposed to be helping. Right? Isn't that the key?
Who's
Yeah.
helping, and also if they're helping you back out of a spot and they don't have anything on, they don't, the reflectors, the bright colors do help for the drivers in the cars as well.
You're absolutely correct.
So the next item to discuss is the sustainable CT application, and I put under there, like, should we rather than wait until the February meeting, should we have a special meeting in between to discuss specific items?
I think so.
I
I
think
don't-
we need one. Unfortunately, I think we need one.
Okay, so any suggestions on when we should do that? Do we like Wednesdays? So our next meeting is on the 9th, I believe. Do we
How
want
about February 26th? It's a Wednesday. It's halfway between then and now.
Okay.
This is a
That-
Saturday.
No,
Oh, wait a minute. No, January 26th. I'm sorry.
That's okay.
My bad.
Does that sound good to everyone? The same time, 12:30?
The only thing is it's midterms right there, and that's the makeup day. I may or may not be running a child to the high school for her orchestra tryout. So that would be just tough to commit. But
Christy Penner.
I mean, I will definitely do my best for sure.
Cliff?
Oh, wait, my husband's here. I forget about him. Yes, he could bring her. So you know what? Yeah, go ahead and book me.
Okay, so I'll set up a
I
special.
forget that he can drive.
Because I know that Craig has sent out a lot of emails to various town officials asking about things to for the application, and I think that I think in the past week we've actually made progress. Cliff said, that he's been digging into it. I've dug into certain areas of it as well, and I mean, I have a couple of areas that I feel ready to write up. So I think it would be good to start doing that. And also, just to delve into for us to go through some of the items category by category. Is there anything, Kathy, you would,
What time?
what
12:30.
time? Oh, 12:30.
12:30. Okay.
I think we should start with the items from Action 7.
Well, I can give you, we should talk about that today. And if you want, I can give you a summary of the other action items I've been gaining momentum on. But my first question is maybe for Kathy, if you're going to kind of be the point person with Sustainable CT1, we wanted to make sure that Monica is listed as the owner versus Jamie. And two, I think we want to, and I didn't explore the website enough to remind myself if it was ready, but if it's ready for us to kind of start an application and upload documents under action items and have them saved. That's kind of my question, because I am also ready to actually, on a couple of these, actually post information and start using the website for its intended purpose.
So Craig, I logged in the other night, and because I wanted to look something up that I had put in last time, and the information was no longer there, which makes me think that I actually had to go back to the PDF of our application on our website to see what I had said about something. So I think that if you log in, it's the new application, and we should have the ability to upload.
I'll start with one and I'll do it and I'll see if it sticks.
But I can also email Chad and just verify that that is the case.
I've got 2 or 3 little conversations that I'm sort of working towards relative to the sustainable CT folks. The first was to help find somebody, Craig, to your request for a speaker that has less to do with our town, but on that other matter, the parks area.
Mhm.
Also, I was I have reached out. I haven't heard back from the woman who is Alyssa Norwood, who's the program manager, who's participating in this FCCHO meeting next week, to get some clarification on if that would work towards points. And I was also thinking, if we're scheduling for the 26th, if we thought we had questions that would be relevant to invite Chad to attend that meeting, if we thought we were prepared with questions that we might want to throw out at him at that point, that we could ask him to join us on that Zoom.
He's been, I mean, I didn't look at yours, Carolyn, but I've invited him to all meetings, but I also have not been shy about just sending an email into info@sustainability, and they did get back to me within a day, and I think that's better than waiting a month and so forth. So I would say, I would encourage everybody to do what Chad told us to do, which is just lob the questions in.
I
Info. Go ahead, sorry.
Oh, no, I'm sorry. I was just going to say, I did include Chad on the invite. So if you want me to make sure that he's here, I can reach out to him separately. But I think Craig's suggestion is a good one, which is just to either email him separately, and he does have a different email than he did last time. Or as he said, if you just do info@sustainableCT, they get back to you very quickly.
Very quickly. Well, I was just thinking, if you're asking me to sort of take a coordinating role, that I'd be happy to reach out directly to him and kind of telling him where we're at, so that that's not on your plate all the time to have to be,
that would be great,
seeking out. The reason that I think things are live now is because the email that came last week, which was about going live, and it was announcing this 1-hour training, which is on
the 18th,
the 18th,
the 20th,
the 18th, the 20th, excuse me.
10 o'clock.
So, yes, so the January 20th Sustainable CT webinar, I think, is really where they're launching officially, but I think it's up there.
Now, Kathy, are you planning to attend that?
I am planning to register for that webinar, and I did reference that it would be available to rewatch, but sometimes if you're there and you want to throw a question in, there's dialogue. So two other things relative and that I just like to say about the application, which may or may not be of any interest to us. They've added a certain designation called Special Climate Leader, and you don't do anything different, but if the items that you submit for points of certain ones reach 140 points, you get another designation. And so I have the list of which items the points that qualify would add up. So it's sort of a sub list. And I was going to match it to our list of what we're working on to see if it's at all anywhere close, just for information purposes. So I could certainly have that available. This is a brand new, what they call a pilot program, which in addition to your certification would be called a Special Climate Leader. And it focuses certainly on emissions and energy and stuff like that.
It'd be nice to have.
And then the last thing is, and I don't know where we're at and if it's too late, but I looked at the community match stuff, and New Canaan, Stamford, Greenwich, Hamden used the community match fund on food scrap projects, and they're all being publicized right now. So again, on anybody's individual thing, if we think there is something, I think the turnaround on these is pretty relatively quick on some of these, as opposed to like year-long grant matching applications. So if anyone has any ideas, we shouldn't be shy to ask for money.
Do we know if they were funded for 2022?
They're in a brochure of the grants that have been given. New Canaan was New Canaan was the Planet New Canaan, Food Scraps in Stamford, School Composting in Greenwich, Food Recovery in Hamden, Residential Food Scraps in Greenwich. So all of our surrounding communities have been getting community match money to work on their food scrap programs.
Because they didn't have them before. Our program was implemented prior to the Sustainable CT.
But now if we want to grow the program and there are things that we're willing to do and that we need to do to expand it and to reach out beyond it, I would imagine that if you have the proper proposal. So all I'm trying to say is that if there's things that we say, but if we can't do it because we don't have the money,
Yeah.
I would encourage that we think about that a little bit and reach out to see if there's any sustainable CT funding, because a lot of the action steps, if you go in and read them, will say there is money for this. You know,
Okay.
don't hesitate to ask for money if you go in and read the equity training. You know, a lot of them will say right in those action steps, you know,
So do you
seek help
think
and resources.
So do you think, for example, I mean, like one of the things that we really wanted to use the Connecticut Deep money for is, you know, to kind of like bolster our existing program, to make it just like we had the temporary swap shop for a while, and now we have the
Yes.
permanent swap shop, and it looks like a permanent thing because there's a concrete foundation and it's a hard structure and there's lights and all of that. You know, do you think we would be able to get money from them, like to bolster our existing program to make the drop off seem more permanent than it currently looks?
I don't know specifically what it would be, but I know that these are areas that Sustainable CT is encouraging communities to invest in. And as a result, there is community match money. So it would just depend on what actions, if it's an action step for the application or whether it's just something we're trying to move ahead anyways, regardless of the application. There
Okay.
are some funds that I think we should not ignore, you know.
Yeah, no, that's a great idea. And I think it just takes a phone call to their office to kind of just run it by them to see it before you even have to put together a proposal. So maybe I can do that and just
Yeah,
ask them, like, could we get, could we get 30,000? But it's a match fund. We would have to raise the
we
money.
have something, but there may be something that's even small that we're working on this project and we're going to invest this. Can you match? Again, I don't know. I'm just saying, as we're looking at this application, I wanted to remind people that the
Yes.
community match funding is there. And as I was reading through, it just kept coming up and coming up and coming up as look for resources. There are resources. And then
No,
there's a new brochure, which is on their website, which gave all the examples of the things they're giving money for. And there was a whole group of them, Stanford, Greenwich, New Canaan,
yes.
all food scrap recycling.
Okay, great. Yeah, no, it's a great
Okay.
reminder because I do sometimes forget about that program, that match
Yeah.
fund.
Okay.
So it's before we move on, because I just wanted to be mindful of the time. We're coming up on an hour. Was there anything else under Sustainable CT that we want, Craig? Yes. Oh, yes, 7.
Ed, I sent you an email. So this is a reminder that I sent you an email, but really, to say it simply, we're worried we have no point potential under category 7. We need to get points in category 7 to get recertified. One idea that I had, which I think would require us to hire a consultant, is to certify one or more or all of our buildings as Energy Star rated by the US EPA. My recollection from when we did the big energy profile with Eversource was that like 8 out of 10 of our buildings would likely achieve such a rating because they tend to be newer and more efficient and well cared for. And so, you know, we have the buildings that will do this, but unfortunately it requires someone, a third party, to make the verification as a part of the application process. So I was hoping that we could, at the very least, ask for proposals for people willing to do this work for us so we could understand the cost and the timing. And if the cost and the timing were both in our favor, hopefully move forward with it.
Yeah, Greg, I read your email and I'm sorry, I just hadn't got a chance to get back to you. I have no problem going out and looking at companies that do it, see what their pricing schedule is. That's absolutely something we can do. I probably won't have the funds until after July 1st, the new fiscal year. So that's kind of close. So hopefully it won't be that much. If not, I can maybe try to transfer it in out of this year's budget to cover it. But let's look at how much it costs.
Yeah, let's start. That's what I would love to do. Let's start with how much it costs.
Yeah.
Let's start with the consultant saying, and it takes 90 days or it takes 120 days.
Yep.
And then if we need to have a special appropriation or move an account around, we can ask for that too.
Yep. So I'm willing to, you know, take a look at the numbers. Let's see what they say.
Great. Let me know if there's anything I can do to help you, or if you're okay sending out those emails or those requests.
Yeah, you can find me companies that do it, because I really don't have any in my head. I know last time I did this, Pat was doing it for me. We haven't done it and approached it in a while, other than Eversource's work. So I'll have Tony start looking into doing it. Do you have
I
any?
mean, I basically, what the two things that I would do is do an internet search or call Eversource, you know, and so Tony can do that too.
Yeah, hopefully that company we use at the police department is still around. They can do it. And that would be great.
Yeah,
Right.
if you enjoyed working with them, that was my first item on the list.
I wonder if Sustainable CT would have any recommendation of anyone doing that either. If someone wants to toss into info at Sustainable CT.
Yeah, that's a good idea. I'll write that email to info at. So that was the most important item to address and not lose time on. You know, I worry that, you know, documentation and submitting it to the EPA and getting the piece of paper and getting it into our application, you know, I feel like it's gonna take 6 months, and we have 6 months. So I just don't wanna wait on starting that process if it indeed becomes the critical item to our application. I mean, do you want me to wait to the special meeting to do other updates, or you want me to run through them quickly now?
There was another one under 7 that if this doesn't work, you know, we might have to investigate. I think it was an energy outreach program to residents. Yeah. What is your feeling of like how much work that would be? And there was also the thing with outdoor lighting. Ed, we got credit for all of the street lights that were changed to LEDs on the last application. So we can't get rolling credit for that, but we do get credit if we change out lights like in parks and you know, other municipal properties. Is that something that we've either already done or something that we could do and get credit for?
Are you talking about buildings, or are you talking about outdoor lighting?
I think that it was outdoor lighting, wasn't it, Craig?
Yeah, install efficient exterior lighting.
Pretty much done everything that we have right now. Other than the Darien train station, they're gonna change those over, but that's not for another year and a half. All the roads done, all of our street lights are done, our parking lots, I've all changed.
Was that all
LEDs.
done in the same project 4 years ago, or was some done since then?
Over time, Craig. Like those decorative lights downtown were all done at the same time, but that was done 8 years ago, and Mechanic Street was done 6 years ago, and you know, like we just did.
Basically, we're looking at the last
4 years ago.
3 years would be the eligibility period. So 2019, 2020, or 2021.
I don't have any exterior work that I've done in the last 3 years.
Okay. Oh, that answers the question.
Okay, and there's none that needs to be done, right? It's all been done already?
The majority of them. There's some one-offs that haven't been done. Couple lights in certain parking lots, but not magnitude-wise. It's more than a handful. I'd be speaking more about it, but it's not.
So it doesn't seem likely that we could get any credits there. So I think the energy educational program would be our next best bet, right, Craig?
Yeah, so we have to hold 5 events to a targeted audience. That's what the action item says.
But they could be webinars, right? Or no,
again, I think we thought that Kathy might look into this one, but you know, I can read it, which is there's 2 parts to it. The first one is identify a target audience and area of efficiency on which to focus your energy campaign. Your target audience may be residents, local business owners, or multifamily property owners, and your area of focus may be solar energy, electric vehicles, battery storage, energy efficient heat pumps, etc. low to moderate income residents spend upwards of 10% of their income on energy costs, creating a crushing energy burden. Consider targeting lower moderate income residents where energy efficiency and renewable energy can make a greater impact. Partnering with the CT Green Bank, utilities, and vendors that serve LMI communities can greatly enhance outreach efforts. So it's like what we did last time, right? It was a big deal, and we did a lot of different events, and we pulled in a lot of different people, and we pulled them off, and we did them, and they were great. But that's what it will take.
Wait, are you talking about the thing that we did with the auditing or the
No, we did, like, at the library, we had a clean energy day at the library. We brought in a bunch of vendors. We had
the light bulb exchange?
yeah, with light bulb exchange, we did different things. It could be I think it could be a webinar. I think it could be an in-person meeting. I think it could be a thing, but you got to have 5 of them, and they have to all be documented to be doing the same thing.
Yeah, this may be where we have to talk to Chad about, like, just kind of tell him what our situation is and, like, if he can help us.
So one of the things here, just to, in the 7.6 and install exterior lighting, there is some rolling credits. So, I think we have to read through on that, because there was a time frame for credit that was new action, and then there was rolling credit for things over 3 years old. And whether or not what we've done for any action older than 3 years, you have to show that it's ongoing and relevant. And this was the one with exterior, parks and outdoor spaces. So I think we have to read it a little bit and see if there's any rolling credit, and if we've done any work in the past 3 years, or any of the work that on the exteriors that is still relevant.
I don't think we got credit the first time for any of that exterior work, except for the street lights.
Street lights, yeah. We got, again, and this was something that Chad did look at for us, and we did get credit last time, and he said we would not be eligible for credit this time. You have to be doing something in the last 3 years. You have to be doing something in the last 3 years in this direction to get some points.
What if we also check, though, like with the BOE facilities manager, because, like, maybe they did something with lighting in the parking lots at the schools or something?
I think those were also done previously, but the same question that Ed just answered, you can ask Mike Lynch to answer, which is, have you done any exterior lighting projects in the last 3 years? If so, that would be incredibly helpful to us.
But even, Craig, if it's not within the last 3 years, if it's beyond the last 3 years, because we didn't get credit for it last time, so it wouldn't be rolling credit. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, am I misunderstanding?
I mean, they say, well, I guess, yes, for any action item, for any action older than 3 years, you must demonstrate ongoing, currently relevant, and meaningful impact in your community to be considered for certification points.
Okay. All right, so 7 is still a problem.
I mean, it's worth asking Mike if they have happened to do any exterior lighting projects in the last 3 years. My guess is that they had previously addressed all those things. It is, but to your point, I think feedback to sustainable CT is good, because we did at one point do 7.1, right? And we did at one point do 7.6, and now those are done.
Yeah. So what else is there
and we
to
did
do?
7.5, and we did 7.7. We've done these things in the past, but anyway.
Okay. Do we want to?
They get to the point of ongoing and meaningful impact, I guess, which is what, look, this program is not designed to be stale and static.
Right.
The program is designed, the whole intent of it is to push and nudge, and cajole and encourage,
Right. Do we want to discuss anything more under this category, or do we want to wait until January 26th for the dedicated special meeting to discuss? Is there
I think we
anything
should
else?
wait. I think we've
Okay.
run out of time.
Yeah, we are. It's getting very late. So just marketing, outreach, and education. Oh, I skipped Board of Ed outreach, and I only put that on the agenda because we always have it, but there's nothing to report. Or is there anything to report there? Anybody? I sent you a copy of the last Darien Neighbors under our environment article, and I'm going to be asking for volunteers for some of the upcoming issues, but I can do that offline. And then under Energy Task Force, new solar array for Town Hall. Ed, is there anything to report on that or on the EVs? You're muted. Ed, you're muted.
Am I? How about
Yeah,
now?
now you're okay.
I don't have anything on the solar array, but the EVs we do. I'm meeting with Kate next week to talk about purchasing vehicles for our next fiscal year. She'd like us to start looking at hybrids for certain individuals. So the process to narrow down and identify which people will have them is going to start. And then we'll start looking into what type of brands or type of makes and models we're going to look at. So it's starting now.
So you'll
a
have something to
hybrid-
report at the next meeting?
A hybrid's not an EV, right?
It's a type of EV. There's four different types actually. There's a mild hybrid, there's a simple hybrid, the plug-ins, EVs, and partial EVs. So there's 4 different brands actually, or makes, if you will. And they keep changing. So
Have you been following all the news on the electric vehicles and the problems with the batteries and how they're just so expensive to replace? And there's been a lot going on with that lately.
it's funny, I've been saying that for about 3 years now, and they still haven't fixed that part. But they're coming out with bigger and better lithium batteries. They're water cooled. They're this. We still have a problem with getting rid of them when they're no longer useful.
Well, that's
So,
the problem. They're made to be obsolete, so they're not exactly budget friendly.
So that Kate would like us to start going in that direction. You folks have always been asking me about it, so it looks like we are headed in that direction.
And I think that when you're ready, or if you have a set of questions,
Yeah.
the Go Green, not Wilson Go Green, Daphne Dixon with, I'm blanking on the name.
Fairfield?
Well, it's through Sustainable Fairfield County, but she has her electric vehicle kind of consulting
Oh,
business, and I'm blanking on the name of it. But there is someone for whom we could toss out questions that has a lot of contacts and information as a resource that we could easily get to. Cliff has met her and knows of whom I'm speaking. You know who I mean.
Yes, but there's also the Fairfield County or the Connecticut EV Owners Association or whatever it was. I sent Ed information about them. And then there's this police officer who also led the effort in Westport to get their cars, including all the budgetary aspects and everything else. And he's willing to talk and help as well. And I think I provided his information. If you can't find it easily, I can provide it again.
Cliff, I have it. Thank you. I had to dig it out last week to review it. Thank you.
You're welcome. And if there's anything else I can do, Ed, just let me know.
Oh, well, I appreciate that. Thank you.
So it's 1:48 right now. Is there anything that anyone can think of that they would like to add for the next agenda? Not for the special meeting, but for next month's agenda? Anything else that anyone wants to say before we adjourn?
Well done. I was really trying to keep myself on mute as much as possible.
Great. Well, it's 1:48. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
So
Yes.
moved.
Okay, great. Well,
Okay.
thank you so much, everyone. And we'll see you in a couple weeks when we dig into our sustainable CT application. And as I said, for various things, I'll be contacting you individually. So
Thanks so
Carol.
much. Well done, Carolyn.
thanks so much.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.